Okay, after seeing the multiple tube fermentation test and the most probable number, the last thing or the last test for identification of coliforms is called coliform index test or E. coli test. So this E. coli index, so this is, or we can say this index has been derived from the test which is called as multiple tube fermentation test. Okay, so the results of multiple tube fermentation test is expressed as E. coli index. See, in the previous video we have seen this multiple tube fermentation test. We have also written the first point this only, that the results of this test are expressed either in NPN or E. coli index. So NPN we have seen in the previous video. Now we are going to see E. coli index. Now this E. coli index is defined as, so it is defined as reciprocal of, it is defined as reciprocal of smallest quantity of sample, reciprocal of smallest quantity of sample that would give positive test result, that would give positive test result. So it's a very easy test. We have to take one example to understand this. We know now the sample size, we are taking it from 10 ml sample, then 1 ml sample, 0.1 ml sample, 0.01 ml sample, and so on. Now among this, let's say the bubbles which are generated in this first. As the bubbles are generated, that means E. coli is present. So in 10 ml it is positive, in 1 ml also it is positive, in 0.1 ml also it is positive, in 0.01 ml it is negative. What do you mean by that positive and negative? So for that you have to go to the multiple tube fermentation test concepts. So according to this, the E. colis, they consume the specialized food which is given to them, that is they ferment the lactose and produce gas. Now in these fermentation tubes, when they consume the food, there are certain bubbles which are generated, and if the bubbles are seen in fermentation tube, then the taste is positive. Same thing will apply here, that is if in 10 ml tube bubbles are seen, that means taste is positive. In 1 ml tube bubbles are seen, taste is positive. Now in this 0.01 ml tube no bubbles are seen, that means the taste is negative. Now what is E. coli index? So E. coli index is index. So it is the reciprocal of smallest quantity of sample. Now in this, which is the smallest quantity? 0.01 ml. But what is the next point? That would give positive test result. So among these four, the minimum is 0.01, but is it giving positive? No. Then which is the next minimum? 0.1 ml. Is it positive? Yes. So this would be the sample that we will require. So this is the main sample, and the formula for E. coli index is reciprocal of the volume of smallest sample. So it is 1 by 0.1, that will be 10. Okay. Now, so this is expressed generally in numbers per 100 ml. So this is a unit, but no need to remember this much. Up to here this is important. Okay, how to find out that E. coli index. that is reciprocal of the smallest volume of sample that will give the positive test result. Okay, so this is about the E. coli test. Generally the smallest sample is critical, that's why we are taking the smallest sample as a reference for E. coli index. And this method is outdated nowadays. This method is not practiced. Okay, so this method is obsolete now.